We play and call it work.
Hello there, Wargamers, and welcome to this week's Sit and Talk with Luka from MiniWarGaming.com. That is me, and today's show will be me sitting down answering questions from you, the viewers. Whatever those questions might be, usually it is an outstanding amount of random assorted questions, and I always appreciate that. It's kind of all over the place. Typically Warhammer related, but I mean all over the place regarding Warhammer. There's always that. Sometimes there's personal questions too, which I don't mind answering, I suppose. No, I don't mind that at all. But next week, the show does continue, and for next week, we have Steve the Mountain. So if you have any questions for my man Steve, be sure to leave them down below. Now, you can leave them on YouTube, but I'm pretty sure, I know for myself, this is true, I typically just read, or I only have enough time to get through the comments that are on the MiniWarGaming.com website. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a comment down below there where Steve might get to it. But if you really want a good chance of him getting your question, go to the website instead. And that's where you'll leave your question, and that's where he'll most likely get to it. I'm going to try and sit here and get this done in an hour, though I typically spend a lot of time on earlier questions, and then I rush through the other ones. I'm going to try and keep a good pace. I say this every time, and I fail every time. But never give up, you know? So let's get right into it, and I'll start answering some questions. I assume I'm already going to go over an hour, but I got a clock in front of me, and I can see where this would logically end, I think. First question here. Moon Poon. Luka. All right. I've been interested in Warhammer Fantasy and the battle reports that you guys do. So I've dusted off some Bretonians and wanted to try to play for myself. How does one get into Warhammer Fantasy in 2021? And what edition should I start with? Okay. How does one get into Warhammer Fantasy in 2021? Well, the easiest way would honestly be have a friend. Doesn't have to be nearby because you could just play on Tabletop Simulator. It is not bad on Tabletop Simulator. That is a game on Steam. Honestly, probably the easiest way. Other than that, though, you would have to get your hands on some secondhand models. Or, I mean, obviously Games Workshop still sells a lot of the relevant models today, like Chaos Warriors and Beastmen, pretty much Cities of Sigmar, all those armies, like Daughters of Cain, they still have a lot of the original Warhammer Fantasy models included in them. You just have to get the square movement trays that they would go on. Or, you know, better yet, you could be patient and wait a little bit more because Games Workshop is coming out with Warhammer the Old World, right? Warhammer, is it called Warhammer the Old World? Ooh, man, I'm a little embarrassed, I can't remember now. But they are recreating fantasy, though the details are murky. Not too sure what that entails. I would like to imagine that it's going to be all your models on circular bases still, but slotted into square trays that have circles cut out in them. Kind of like War of the Ring for Lord of the Rings back in the day. Or if you're familiar with Song of Ice and Fire, they do something very similar. I think that is going to be the approach to it. I don't actually know what the answer is, but if you're very eager to get into Warhammer Fantasy as you see it on the battle reports, your best bet is to find a friend who'd be willing to get into it with you as well, and you could try it out on Tabletop Simulator. Or, you know, like literally just move around Pogs or whatever to try it out first, like some sort of like movement tray things, because it's a big investment if you don't like it. You yourself mentioned you have Bretonians. They have old 6th edition rules. I don't believe they were ever updated. So your best bet is probably playing 6th edition, honestly, with them. And then people approach Warhammer Fantasy through a lot of different angles nowadays. You have the Warhammer community one. Oh, I can't remember the name of it. I apologize. It is pretty much a fan-made community update to Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition. There is the 9th Age, which is an earlier rendition of where Warhammer could go and where Warhammer was headed. We have older editions of the official Games Workshop rules. 5th edition, which is like very old school. I mean, everything before that's even more old school. But 5th edition, as far as I know and go, it's like before 6th edition came out, 5th edition was its own like Hero Hammer thing. You had the cards for Magic still. Kind of reminded me a lot of like 2nd edition Warhammer 40k, which were pretty much identical rule sets. I mean, I'm sure there's some subtle differences, but the joke was that you could just play, you'd have the same rule set, same stats, a lot of the similar rules, and you could have just played like Marines versus like an Empire army, and it might have like worked. Don't quote me on that though. I've never actually played. I played 2nd edition Warhammer 40k. I have not played 5th edition Warhammer Fantasy, though I did notice a lot of similar rules there. 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy, I believe it was rewritten to be more with what you're sort of familiar with now, but at like a foundational level. but still pretty different from 8th edition. I personally love 6th edition fantasy. It's one of my favorites just because it doesn't have steadfast, it doesn't have hordes. The magic is toned down quite a bit, and you remove casualties. Your casualties, you don't step forward when you're killed. So like you have 5 dwarves fighting 5 skeletons, and we'll say the dwarves go first. They kill those 5. They kill 4 skeletons off. You kill 4 from the front, and then the units step up. But the 4 that died don't get to attack back. Just the 1 remaining skeleton gets to fight back. That gives a lot of power to anything that has high initiative. Elves, for an example, they're usually pretty safe because they'll kill anything that would fight them back. But in the off chance they don't, they are fragile and get knocked over pretty quickly. I kind of like that. It reminds me of that one scene in the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring, where the Mordor orcs charge into the high elven line, and they do that cool like glaive thing where they flip their thing up and they just kill everyone. They don't take any casualties in return. Obviously, there's more hordes of orcs coming, but I don't know why I always associated those two rules with the one scene from the movie. So I'm a big fan of that, and I'm already rambling incredibly. So I'm gonna try and calm down. And I think my favorite, as it stands for Games Workshop official editions, 6 is my favorite. I have not played 7th. That might be like a perfect mix of 8th and 6th. And I do like 8th because it has a lot of quality of life changes that are missing in 6th edition. Like I'm pretty sure you can't combat reform in 6th edition. So if you get caught in the flank, that is your life until that combat is resolved or until you have assistance to fix it. You can't like turn to face on a leadership check or anything if you lost combat or anything like that. That is definitely something. And like the wheeling is not actually free in 6th edition charging. So you have to like, if your unit's like charging a unit here and you're trying to like go in there, it's actually not free to do that wheel. So like in 8th edition, that'd be like a 2-inch charge, whereas in 6th, that actually might be like a 6 or 7-inch charge. So if for whatever reason you don't have to move it, you might not actually make it. I think that's kind of janky. It's not great either. But I mean, it is what it is. I think that's worth giving up the stuff in 8th edition. But everyone's right when it comes to what edition they want to play in Warhammer Fantasy. I'm not saying no one's making the wrong decision. I think everyone has got the right idea. They just play whatever their favorite edition is. I like 8th. I could definitely play 8th forever. I haven't tried any of the newer ones. The guys I play with, they like 8th, so they play 8th. Though Steve's thinking about going back to 6th again to try it out, or even 7th, which I'd be more than willing to try out. When I say I have a favorite, it means I won't refuse to play the other ones. I think they're fine. I just prefer some of the mechanics in 6th. I definitely like the toned down magic and the way how magic works in general too. It's not like random dice. You always have like a fixed amount, and just magic isn't a big factor. It's a big factor, but it's not like game breakingly huge. Maybe elves it could be, but I digress again. You would approach whatever edition you want to approach it. I would even recommend maybe even one of the newer editions like the 9th Age or the Warhammer Fantasy Project, it might be called. You might have to do some digger deeping. Maybe a kind commenter down below could leave some information on what that edition of Warhammer it is. That it's a fan-made edition. They're all very modernized, right? So like I'd say from what I've heard, my favorite, I think I would dare say my favorite edition of Warhammer Fantasy would be a hybrid of 6th and 8th, where you have unit strength. Steadfast is nerfed. Steadfast can stay. It's fine. They can stay, but it needs to be nerfed. It's way too powerful as it is. And I've heard that in one of the fan-made Warhammers, that's actually the case, where unit strength is a thing, and Steadfast isn't as strong as it is in 8th edition. Steadfast just feels bad for monsters and cavalrymen for 8th edition. They're just so bad. They're not well represented of the terror and chaos they could cause in a brick of regiment of infantry. It's just not represented at all. The second part of this question is, or a bonus question even, what Warhammer Fantasy army would you be interested in starting up in this day and age? I'm on a big Tomb King kick right now. I would honestly start up, if I didn't have anything, if I had nothing, I have a personal Vampire Count army. That's it though. The studio's got all the other armies I play. I would if I had nothing, I would start Vampire Counts, I think, without a doubt. But I would like, like assuming it's 6th edition, because like 8th edition Vampire Counts are great, obviously, but I don't mind the way they play, but I've shoehorned myself into one play style for them, which isn't great. That's kind of my own doing. But I like the old like smaller bricks of like even like a brick of 20 skeletons, because of how powerful Fear was. It was a scary unit, not albeit super killy, but through psychology it would win. Tomb Kings would be a second favorite, and maybe Beastmen or Warriors of Chaos would be other options, like a Khorne Force or a Nurgle Force. But like Nurgle Warriors of Chaos are a little taboo, I think, for Warhammer Fantasy. Like a horde of weapon skill 5, -1 to hit guys is a little much. Oh, and let's not get started on Demon Princes of the Warriors of Chaos as opposed to Demon Princes of Chaos for the Demons book. Not even remotely close to the same. Oh, so sad, so sad. I'd go with the Death Army, 100% without question. Mylin, sorry, wow. At Luka, the rules of Maelstrom of War came out in White Dwarf 461. When will we see it on the channel? Well, let me tell you, Mylin, we are very bad at keeping up with White Dwarf releases. I've heard this as well, and I've been meaning to get around to it. And we have, you can laugh, you can be in disbelief, but we did not have a White Dwarf subscription. We have not. I don't know. There was a period of time where White Dwarfs were kind of worthless, and this is a long time ago, where they weren't not worthless. They had a lot of cool art, a lot of information on the game, but they weren't too valuable for us. They weren't even costing a lot of money either. But they canceled the subscription. And we just kind of fell behind the times on White Dwarf. Now we realize, oh crap, literally every White Dwarf has got pretty big rules in it, pretty big changes to the game. And every so often, a White Dwarf will come up with massive changes or different ways to play the game that we haven't even considered. So obviously this is an example of that. And I've been so busy with like Age of Sigmar, Horus Heresy, Warhammer Fantasy, doing a few like new games like Bolt Action and I just want to play 40K so bad too. I just want to play everything. The problem is there's only so much time in the work week, and it's just so much focus is being put elsewhere right now. For me personally, I have say what I want to do, obviously, but I'm so attracted to new and interesting things that I'm usually the first one to be like, oh, I'll do that 100%. I'll try that out. I'm always willing to try out something new, and I'm always curious to see like how other design philosophies come into play for other war games and things like that. Because Steve and I are working on a project right now that is just a new game coming out on Kickstarter, and you'll have more details on that in the future when those videos are released or ready to be put out. But I just have such a little focus on 40K right now, and just not by choice. I mean, I miss 40K. I have like 2 Space Wolf lists I want to play, 3 Necron lists I want to play, and I want to retry one of the Death Guard lists I played, and I have 2 more builds of Death Guard I want to try out as well. Just like so much variety in 40K I want to try right now because all my books have been coming out, and I apologize I haven't been able to show them off that much. But I absolutely will be trying out those Maelstrom of War missions because I know Steve and I are both huge, so is Josh as well. In fact, I think a lot of us are giant fans of Maelstrom of War because it's that perfect. You want to Eternal War is amazingly written in the way it scores, and it's nice, but it's predictable in a lot of ways too, and it goes to show good movement early on can reward good scoring later on, and that's fine, and that does show good skill and proper play. But sometimes you just want things to be out of your control. You want to both players want to be the reactive player. You know, you don't want to always be proactive. So it's kind of fun when the game just throws you curveballs every now and then, and you're just like, oh, I have to be over there now and scoring that objective. I'll make do. I'll try and figure it out. Or I have to kill that guy for some reason. Absolutely. By all means, I'll try that out. I personally love Maelstrom of War, and I know all the other guys here love it as well. So I'm very excited to try that out when the opportunity comes around. Lord of Blades, Luka. I've been looking at some of the cool Forge World models and got to wondering, what are ones that if money wasn't a variable, what would you get? Oh, man. I mean, I'd probably have like a Titan Legion, I suppose, if money wasn't an issue. But I mean, minus that, I'm looking to expand my 30K Space Wolves. I didn't initially want to get any transports for them, but it turns out it's really hard to play a close combat army running up the board without any mechanized support. Now, the Rights of War I typically like to run don't allow too many heavy support options, nor do they allow deep striking or artillery. So my only other options are like Rhinos, Land Raiders, and Spartans. I didn't want to get Spartan because it's just of course you're going to have a Primarch with his bodyguard and a Spartan. It's just an obvious build in a lot of cases. And the Vargir Terminators are really good. Lehman Russ is really good. They're all great melee combatants, so it's a build that makes sense, unfortunately, for them. So I'll be getting a Spartan for my Space Wolves. I mean, I don't have it right now. I want to get it. I don't know when I'm going to get it. I don't know what the plan is for that. And I'm using the Studio Land Raiders right now, but they're painted for 40K, and they're I believe, Mars pattern. So like they existed in 30K, but like I kind of want the other pattern of, I like the 30K one. Plus, I want it painted up to match my Legion a little bit better. So I'll be getting a couple Land Raiders and a Spartan, I suppose. And I have some 40K Terminator upgrade kits. I wouldn't mind like some feedback on this for anyone who's watching it and is into the Horus Heresy. I have 40k Terminator upgrade kits. Now they come with the Crux Terminatus. I'll probably scrap that and not use that, but the heads, the bodies are unique to Space Wolves, and I kind of want to try them out, and I'm curious to see how well that would... It's the Indominus pattern Terminator armor, though. And I know they have Indominus pattern in 30k, but I don't want to run it as Indominus pattern. I'm pretty sure Vargear can only be in Cataphractii play, so I'm thinking, like, what if I use, like, Cataphractii legs? But I might as well just buy Vargear Terminators. So I'm trying to, like, think of a way to save money and use bits I already have, but I don't think it's going to work out. Anyways, I am looking to get... increase my Space Wolf collection with more Forge World stuff, essentially. All right. Oh, man, this is a long one. Okay. Oh, right. Gantrathor 22. Luka, I hope you're doing well. Thank you. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to ask if you have read the book The Infinite and the Divine. I have not, and I've heard of it. This is between Trazen and Orican, I believe. Two named Necrons, Orican from the Sotek dynasty and Trazen, well, one's from the Nihilok dynasty, more of an independent agent now, I believe. Rambling. Speaking as someone who is not even a die-hard Necron fan, it was an amazing book, and I highly recommend it. Okay, it's fair. Probably one of the best books in the Black Library has put out in years. Okay, fair. Since you are such a Necron fan, I think you absolutely need to read it. Well, it sounds like I do. A 1-minute elevator pitch for it would be Trazen and Orican. Okay, I was right. All right. Becoming the best of frenemies over the course of 10,000 years of rivalry. All right. Considering how old the Necrons are, albeit they've probably only been awake themselves for about 10,000 years. So yeah, that makes sense. The audible version of the book is also very good. If you prefer to listen to it, the narrator is solid. I wonder who the author is. I could look this up after. My question is about... Oh, the question itself is about Warhammer Fantasy. Wild. Okay, pertaining to the book, after this, I'm going to do it right now. I'm just going to open it up on Audible, The Infinite and the Divine, because I typically have a bad memory. I'm listening to Pariah right now, which is a Beckwin novel written by Dan Abnett. I didn't even know these existed, to be fair, and so I can't believe I missed it. So I'm like 33% of the way through that right now. I listen to all my books on my drives to and from work. I don't give myself enough time to listen to them or read books on my own. I mean, I could, but I'm too addicted to video games, and like I somehow like get distracted going to my mom's house. Or I'm busy with like my roommate, my buddy, and like he wants to hang out and do something too. So like I get too distracted when I get home or like in between work. So like to and from work is like the perfect time. All right, so The Infinite and the Divine, you say, my man. Infinite and Divine. Oh, look, it's right there. Robert Rath. Interesting. I'll be honest, I have not heard. When did this come out? 2020, 10/10. November 10th? No, sorry, October 10th. Well, it's actually not even that old. It's like a few months old. It's like half a year old. All right, cool. Cool. It's got great rating. Wow, it's like 87 ratings, 5-star review. Okay. You know what? I'll just buy it. I'll just buy it right now. There you go. You got me. You got me, homie. All right. I will listen to that after the Beckwin series, and then I will go back to the Horus Heresy. So the biggest problem is the Horus Heresy is so wildly long. It is just, what a ridiculous book series. I'm sure there's bigger book series out there, connected book series. I haven't looked it up. I got to imagine the Horus Heresy has to be one of the biggest. Has got to be. Like, top 5 biggest book series out there. I'm trying to power through it right now. And I am close. I just finished. I'm about to do Titan Death. I think I'm on Titan Death. And I've been reading them all. Like, I skipped Korax. I can count the amount of books I skipped. I skipped Korax. And I skipped Fury of the Abyss, I believe. And I skipped... I skipped a couple of other ones. I can't remember their names, though. I've been told they were so bad, they're not even worth my time. Oh, I skipped Vulcan Lives. But I read the other Salamander book series afterwards. Though Vulcan Lives wasn't necessarily a big series, I suppose. I don't know. I skipped the other ones are great. Born of Flame. It's the one where they're bringing Vulcan's body back to Nocturne, and Old Earth. I thought was really good too. I liked Old Earth. But then I'm not really picky. I like everything. But I skipped those ones. And I'm getting there. I'm almost done. I'm almost on the Siege of Terra. I'm going through this. I also skipped a lot of the short stories. I did a few of the beginning ones, and then I kind of got burnt out. I like the idea of like 5 major books, collection of short stories. I thought that was kind of neat. And then it was all of a sudden it was like 3 major books and short stories. And okay, cool. I can mess with that. And it was like 2 major books and short stories. Then it was like book, short stories, and then short stories, short stories. Like, okay, I'm gonna cool on the short stories here. I'm just gonna read the books now because a lot of my time I started to feel some burnout, and there's a lot of stories I just wasn't interested in. And then you know what? I didn't really like Talarn too much. It was all right, but that one was kind of hard to get through. And there was a few period of books like around Talarn that I was kind of like just kind of trudging through it. And now I did like Ruinstorm, where I got back to the Imperium Secunda storyline, which I was always very interested in. And then after that, there was like Old Earth, and I think I literally just finished reading it the other day. Oh, Wolfsbane. Loved Wolfsbane. That was awesome. And of course, I loved Wolfsbane. And now we're on to next. Well, I don't know if it's Titan Death next, but I'm almost up to. Titan Death is like one of the major books, I think, in the series that a lot of people are familiar with. So I'm next up on that one. Anyway, sorry. My time has been so taken up by literally Horus Heresy novel after Horus Heresy novel that I have not had time to like go do other novels like at all. I'm thinking about doing the Malazan series at some point. In between all the Horus Heresy stuff, I was able to like do Dune, just the basic Dune book, because the new movie is coming out, and like I absolutely need to listen to Dune. It's such a classic that I mean it'd be a shame not to, right? I love the Eisenhorn series, and by default like the Ravener series as well. That's why I'm reading the Beckwin one, because I just think it's so good. I think that's honestly the only 40k books I've actually read, believe it or not, is Eisenhorn, Ravener, and then I'm on the Beckwin series now. Magos is part of the Eisenhorn series. I think those are the only 40k books I've read, though. So, like, any questions about 40k books, I have not read them. I'll try the Infinite and the Divine out, though. Absolutely, I'll try it out. Give me some deeper insight into the Necrons and narratively, in a book. I've not actually read them. I love the Necrons. Not read a book of them yet, though. Horus Heresy takes up all my time. What else have I read in between all that? I don't think there's any. Well, I don't know if anyone has any insight on the Malazan series. I've heard it's like one of the best fantasy series ever written. So says my like 2 friends. So it's anecdotal, but I trust their words. I mean I take their word for it. So if anyone has some insight into that series and they've read it, by all means, let me know if I'm making a horrible mistake or not. Now to the actual question. It's been 20 minutes and I've only answered like 3 questions. So geez, I am sorry. Okay, here we go. Bam. It's about Warhammer Fantasy. I adore the fantasy games you guys put out, but I have noticed that when one side has a horde and the other does not, it seems as though the side with the horde has a pretty big advantage. What is your opinion? Okay, pending on that horde. There are certain armies that don't typically want to run hordes, like elves, wood elves don't really want to run hordes. They could do fine without running hordes. I think in a lot of cases, horde isn't the end-all be-all, and we're also not playing at a very tournament competitive level. When I'm playing Tomb Kings a lot recently, I've been doing a lot better with Tomb Kings, and I have not been running hordes, and it's more adjusting to how they play. But like for example, playing against Steve's horde of Orc Boys, not the best horde, it's a pretty bad horde, but it's a lot of points invested in that horde, and that horde is typically used to protect his war machines because he wants to shoot. So it's a horde in his army that is not meant to do horde things. It's meant to just protect the war machines. And I was able to play around it and just avoid it, and that was fine. But a horde like Warriors of Chaos, or like a Lizardman horde, or any like actual good warriors and good fighters in a horde, that would be scary to deal with. And I would have to just keep screening it and just throwing crap in front of it while the rest of my army does like plinks away at it, because a horde is unwieldy. A horde is really good at just like crashing through units and then just like working its way around the battlefield, but can only do so much in such a period of time when you really think about it. There are certainly ways to play around a horde if you yourself don't want to bring a horde, because I had to imagine that horde takes up a massive chunk of your army. And then, the other player not running a horde can have a lot more smaller units that could help distract that horde and, plink away a little bit of the other person's army. And the person who wins that didn't bring a horde didn't kill a lot of points, but hopefully killed enough to win a minor victory over the guy who brought the horde. And then sometimes that's all it takes. I don't mind big horde-on-horde fights, especially if it's 2 giant hordes of guys, but typically, if it's a big scary unit horde, big scary unit of whatever forms a horde, like Warriors of Chaos with the Mark of Nurgle, or like Vampire Count's Graveguard, Lizardmen horde, they can all be pretty scary. There's probably a couple other good examples I can't think of off the top of my head, but those are good enough. When they clash and they have like a Vampire Lord in the Graveguard, or they have like the BSB and a level 4 Wizard in the Warriors of Chaos one, and then one side eventually wins and like steadfast isn't really a thing because they're giant units, and then one just breaks and they break and it's over. The game's kind of over. It can be kind of lackluster. So I don't typically like to bring hordes too much. So I can kind of suck. I think having a horde does give you a little bit of an advantage, unless the other person is smart and builds a list that knows the other guy's going to bring a horde and will play around with lots of very cheap screening units or redirectors, and I hate that mechanic. But that's another reason why I like 6th edition a little bit more, because it's not really a thing. You don't have giant hordes of guys being blocked by like a cat. That's not a thing. Anyways, next question. Phantom Bombas. Your greatest fantasy game ever. This is a link to, if you guys are curious, if you want to go, not to this video, but to the previous week's sit and talk with Cullen and Josh, a game was linked by Phantom Bombas. It's like a 14-minute video. If you want a good laugh at some Warhammer Fantasy and you've not seen this video of my Dark Elves versus Steve's Empire at the time, you'll get a good laugh out of this game. It was sometimes, I think it's titled Sometimes Warhammer Fantasy Be This Way, or it's something along those lines. And it's just, I actually rewatched it the other day. It's just a good laugh. It's just the circumstances of what happens are wild. We have Stormbolter. Hi, Luka. Hope you're doing well. I am doing well, Stormbolter. I hope you're doing well. My question is, what do you think needs to change in the Horus Heresy? Oof. Ooh. Is there something that when you play annoys you or frustrates you a lot? I'm very vocal about this. I think that is an amazing edition of Warhammer. It's the Horus Heresy edition now because it got reprinted. It's like a 7.5, but it's just the Horus Heresy edition. Outstanding rule set. Everything about it, top to bottom, I love, except the monstrous creature rules are so garbage. I've said this so many times, and they could, if they were to rewrite it, the only thing I would want to see change is literally take the monstrous creature rules page out of it, just rip it out of the book, crumple it up, throw it in the garbage, or put it in a shredder, whatever, who cares, and then go to the vehicles part of it, and then just beside walkers or vehicles put / monstrous creatures, because all those rules are the exact same. It could perfectly represent how a monster works. A monster does not need to have different rules than a vehicle at all, none at all. And then like you could have, say there's a Mechanicum robot, we'll say a Domitar or whatever. Las Cannon looks at Domitar, shoots at Domitar. We'll say the Domitar is like whatever. The one I'm trying to think of is the Toughness 8 one. That thing could have armor 14 on the front. That's fine. Las Cannon shoots at it. A Las Cannon would typically wound the monster creature on a 3, and then he gets whatever save he has, if he has an evolved save, I don't know, and then boom, he takes his 1 wound of 5, and that's it. There's no repercussions. Whereas that Las Cannon could shoot at the Walker vehicle Domitar, and well, I only really hurt you on a 5, but if I get that 5 through, absolutely can just destroy it in one shot. And that's how, I don't care if anyone thinks that's bad or not, that's how it should be. You should have heavy weapons critically damage these monsters. I'm so tired of the best counter to monstrous creatures are like plasma guns or instant death weapons, which don't feel like it should work either. Instant death weapons, it's just this weird workaround where like poison hurts these like, even though I think the Mechanicum have rules against poison, but they had to write rules for the Mechanicum monstrous creatures so that they're not affected by poisonous attacks, which they never should have been in the first place. Poisonous attacks should have no effect on them. And it's just like what Haywire should work on them. Absolutely, Haywire should. You can give them defenses against Haywire, but Haywire should absolutely work against them. It does not. It's like wild. It is so wild that like I don't know. It stems. The root of the problem comes from when the Riptide came out for Warhammer 40k, and I don't know which one came out. It was the Grey Knight Dread Knight armor, which was the Grey Knight. Everyone calls it the baby carriage, where it's just in a big walker and it's out front, and it's like, oh, that's a cool walker. No, it's a monstrous creature. What? And then everyone was so confused, and then it just kind of stemmed from there, where it's like, okay, Riptide's out now, and like this thing's a monstrous creature. Ghost Kill, that's a monstrous creature, and it's just, why? Why are they monstrous creatures? It's just because walkers and their vehicles weren't super powerful because they could get killed by heavy weapons, and it was just, well, I mean, I'm sorry, that's just how it works. That's fine. They were still good. It was very all or nothing, right? Where you could pay just, if you're gonna bring a very big expensive monster or vehicle and it gets killed in one shot, that's just how it is. You just gotta get used to that. Or they could have given them better rules to like maybe more things could have been venerable, where you have to roll like 2 dice on the vehicle damage table and take the lowest result. So like a double 6 would kill something, but like a 6 and a 5 wouldn't. That's fine. They could have done that. Anything, literally anything, because nothing feels worse than shooting a bunch of weapons at like a Domitar or like a big monstrous creature, and it's just so hard to get through. His high toughness and his good save, that the only real reasonable way to do it is instant death weapons. So you have to spam instant death weapons to really get them. And like that doesn't feel good for your opponent, right? It's just like, oh, cool, you just draw nothing but instant death weapons. I guess I auto lose, and it's just it doesn't work. It doesn't mesh well, and I'm very passionate about this. I'm sorry. It's just, and then there's no reward for like, okay, I did like 3 damage to that giant monstrous creature who has 5 wounds or 4 wounds. He's still just as effective as he was. Whereas like if it was a vehicle and you just absolutely crush him with heavy weapons, he's hanging on though he's still alive. At least he'll be shaken, or at least he'll be stunned, or you destroyed a weapon. There's some effect that happened to them. So you shake you shoot like 3 las cannons. They all go through the Domitar. It's like, oh no, and I'm fine. It's fine. No worries. Whereas if it was a walker, then it could have been shaken, and then he has to snap fire his weapons. And if he's got a big blast weapon, then that weapon's turned off. Will it make the army a lot weaker? Yes, that's fine. I don't. I am very biased though. I don't like fighting against the non-Marines in Horus Heresy. I don't mind custodians. I don't like the idea. I like the idea that they exist, but it's just they're so outside of the norm for the Horus Heresy. It can be very jarring playing against them for the first time, where you're used to playing Marine on Marine. My guys do that, your guys do that. Or like the exact same army. No matter what I bring, you can bring 2 minus special units that don't typically break the game so much. And then you have these weird, like, these outlying armies. I feel like they have no place in the game at all. But I mean, narratively they existed there, so therefore it makes sense to make rules for them. But it's just, you guys get it. You guys get it. I would change. That's the only thing I would change. The monstrous creature rules, make the vehicles, and then all of a sudden you don't get to fire in all arcs. You have to face your arc properly as well. You can't just have a guy with a gun. Monstrous creature is like, I'm just going to shoot behind me because it doesn't really matter. I got the same. And then all of a sudden their facings matter. They might have more armor, less armor on the back. It's just, game would be a lot better. It's just monstrous creatures. Now, to be fair, monstrous creatures have always frustrated me, even in 7th edition and 6th edition. All of them. I've never liked them. JW Doom, Luka, since the old world was announced, there's been a lot of mention on MiniWarGaming about rank and flank. What does it mean for a war game to be rank and flank, and how is Age of Sigmar not rank and flank? Well, rank and flank typically alludes to a tray that all the models are on that is a rectangle, or I guess it could be a square too in shape, and that's the unit. The model is more the unit instead of the individual models in the unit. Where like Kings of War does it very eloquently, where they have. You never pull models off your tray. You have a breaking point on your units, and it represents like guys getting killed off and morale is starting to shake and crumble, and the whole unit runs away at once instead of like killing it down to like 2 guys left and then they run away. Not that that's a bad thing. It's a different approach to the game. Rank and flank, Song of Ice and Fire, Kings of War, Warhammer Fantasy, Hail Caesar. There's more. I just can't think of them right now, and I apologize to those games because they are also great. I love all rank and flank games. So rank and flank is your models are all ranked up. Age of Sigmar could 100% be a rank and flank game, but it's not really designed that way. You could just have all your guys in perfect squares and rectangles, and like they don't break their formation, and they can move around like that if you really wanted to. It's just not designed that way, so it doesn't really work out. It's more of a you could rank up when you move, you march up, and then once the chaos of battle happens, then they start breaking rank and everything. And the chaos of battle kind of takes over, and then it's just a big old mosh pit in the middle where it just once the dust settles, whoever's standing left afterwards is alive, and that's kind of how it goes. That's kind of it. I guess that's like the only way I can really explain it. I'm probably explaining it poorly at this point, but I don't know what else to say. Rank and flank typically is just models on a tray, and then you instead of moving the models individually, you just move the whole tray itself, and it's clean. If that makes any sense. It's quick. The movement is very important, more than anything else in the game, but it's also very simple to actually do. I mean, like Age of Sigmar's movement is simple too, and it's the most important thing in the game. Like I think, like anyone can argue with me on that one, but I think Age of Sigmar's movement is the most important part of the game, especially with the double turn mechanic, especially with that mechanic. Yeah, rank and flank, just square bases and moving around. I believe. I hope. All right, we have Aaron Brown, not necessarily a question, but a comment. This is probably pertaining to like Josh and Cullen, but I'll see your Val Kilmer and raise you with Dennis Quaid as Doc in Wyatt Earp, with Kevin Costner. Closer to the real guy, except being too old. It's definitely probably something to do with Josh. I like Wyatt Earp though. All right, Demon Wolf. Hey there, Captain Catman the Dice. Hopefully this is finding you well. I got 4 questions for me. Great. Firstly, when will we likely see a new Deathwatch campaign? That's a good question. I think everyone's honestly a little burnt out on Deathwatch for now. So focused on everything else. Matthew has a whiteboard, it's got like 10 different narrative campaigns on it right now, and he's just trying to he's working on all of them separately a little bit, and whichever one kind of comes to fruition first is the one that'll be done. There is a Deathwatch up there, though. There's definitely a new season of Deathwatch up there. I'm not too sure how much work's been put into it. Secondly, will you be playing as the antagonist in it, as you were amazing as the games master? Okay, I appreciate that. I could, I suppose. I would probably just use kill team rules, realistically, because I just think that's better represents the scale of Deathwatch that we want to do, but with bigger boards. It'd be bigger boards. It'd be like 4x4s at least, 6x4s even too. And I would also want to implement some Warhammer 40k in there as well, like have the Deathwatch kill team working with some like guardsmen to fight out Xenos, because I don't like the full narrative of just like small narrative. I do like to expand that into something bigger if I can. But if you expand it too big, it loses the focus on the Deathwatch. I would like to have them all keep they could be a unit, and they can keep all their cool special rules, and they just go around rocking the battlefield doing cool Space Marine things, feeling like Space Marines do. But then once you scale it up past that, like Apocalypse, then all of a sudden they lose a lot of their flavor, and then you can go even bigger than that, like Battlefleet Gothic, and then the Deathwatch aren't even there. Like, here's the ship the Deathwatch Marines are on. Like, that's it there. I'm all over the place right now, so that's kind of where my mind goes. But I could see myself doing that. I could definitely get some enjoyment out of a Deathwatch narrative campaign for Kill Team. The problem is they scale up so well and they level up so nicely that I would need to start throwing bigger units at them, and then all of a sudden the kill team rules might not represent that super well. Thirdly, do you think you can get Matt into 30k? I always poke at it a little bit, and every now and then he says, maybe. Like he's on the, like, if there was like a scale of like 0 being nope, 10 being absolutely let's play right now, I'd say he's at like a 6. A 6 out of 10 maybe. I think I know he would enjoy it if you played it. It's just he's so focused on other things right now, so it's hard to, justify putting time into that. Finally, I haven't seen Mr. The Vest around. Vito, have I missed something? Has he moved? Yes, he has moved on. He's doing his own thing. He's got Trident and True hobbies, I believe, on Instagram, and he's got his own studio. He's always been a painter through and through. It's always been his passion. He is an outstanding artist, and he's just doing a lot of painting commissions right now. He's like fully booked to doing all that. He's doing a ton of work for us right now too. He's painting up our Hedonites of Slanesh army for Age of Sigmar, the Mortals. He did some demons too, though, and he did what's his name? Glutos. I can't remember his last name. The new big old fat guy on the Harlequin, but Palanquin, where he's being dragged along by the ogres and everything. Like, absolutely killed it on that. The marble on that is outstanding. He's been doing a ton of painting commission work, so if you want to check him out, go check him out on Instagram. It's Tried and True Hobbies, where he's just doing like updates every day and a lot of work. Phantom Bombas. Oh, is this another question or a follow? Because I know I just did Phantom Bombas. Okay, you linked the fantasy game earlier. All right, good morning or afternoon. In this case, afternoon. The new Soulbound RPG, yeah or nay? For me, it's a big yeah. Okay, well, I know Matthew has been reading it. I myself have not. So I will give you a medium answer of yeah. I don't know. What character would you be interested in playing? I don't know what the character options are. I know it's an Age of Sigmar role-playing game. I know that much. And what would be the backstory? I think the idea of the campaign is it's kind of... I would like to imagine it's the style of RPG where you kind of work together with your games master and the rest of your players to figure out what you want to play. So imagine... Oh, wow, I can't remember what the more recent 40k one was called, where you could play kind of an assortment of anything. You'd be like Orcs, Eldar, Marines, or Guardsmen. Okay, let me use an example of like the Fantasy Flight Warhammer role-playing games, where like Dark Heresy and Rogue Trader, Death Watch. What was the Guard one called? I can't remember now. Died a lot. But those were very focused on one aspect of 40k, like Dark Heresy, or you played Black Crusade, I think was one where you play the Chaos. But like Dark Heresy, you're playing inquisitorial not inquisitors, but the retinue of an inquisitor, and you work with them closely, and you work for them. So you're an imperial human for the most part. I mean, there's expansions on that where you can be more things, but that's the one thing you're like kind of shoehorned into. Rogue trader is the more open-ended one, where you were just part of a rogue trader and his crew. One person was a rogue trader typically, or the GM would narratively play the rogue trader, and you're doing rogue trader stuff, or Death Watch Marines, and the other ones you're doing your own thing. Whereas like these are more open-ended, you can kind of do whatever you want in the grand scheme of the RPG. What would I play in this one? It'd be kind of weird to, I don't know, it's weird to be, I wonder if it can be anything death related. I think the obvious cool one would, I do think the Stormcast Eternals are really cool. Narratively what they are, they're like, obviously they're very Space Marine-like, where they show up, and they lightning strike onto the battlefield, they show up and they whoop butt, and they're just like, yeah, whatever, we're Stormcast Eternals, nothing's too big for us to deal with, right? I think obviously it'd be kind of cool to be like the badasses of Age of Sigmar, but there's a lot of other cool things. I've always appreciated being the regular Joe who ascends to greatness. Right now, I'm running a Enemy Within with the new release of Enemy Within for the Warhammer Fantasy role-playing game with my friends, and I'm very excited for that. And everyone kind of randomized their characters. It has mechanics to randomize your character. You get bonus experience. It's not so much a hit a threshold and level up game. It's you gain experience for accomplishments as you role-play. Like, you found out this one guy's secret. Here's 5 experience, and now upgrade one skill or upgrade one characteristic based on how much it has a certain cost associated with it. So you don't really level up, but you can like tier up your class based on accomplishments you've done. Anyways, I love, so you can randomize your characters, and you're most likely to get regular human that has a knife. Like that's like you're like my one buddy randomized. He's a lawyer. He's just a lawman. He's just literally a lawyer. I ended up randomizing a slave. I was a stable hand. I was a slave that worked in stables, so I was like kind of physically strong. And I had like a knife as my gear and like nothing. It was kind of fun actually. I really liked that. I don't know if you could be like a regular kind of Joe in the Soulbound RPG. Absolutely, but I don't actually know much about it, so I apologize. I can't answer the question properly. Or I'd be interested in like a young fledgling vampire, if that makes sense. But that'd be kind of cool too. I'm just saying. All right, miso, Luka. Have you lost weight? If so, what is your diet and exercise regime, and has it been hard? I have lost weight, but it's like over a very long period of time. It's like we're talking probably a year and a half now. And I just changed up my diet. Like I was let's just say that period of my life, I was very, very lax. Everything was very, it's not like it's stressful now or anything, but everything was very comfortable. It was just eat whatever I want, hang out, do this, do that, whatever. Got a little complacent, to say the least. I put on a lot of weight. And I was pretty fit before that, and I realized it afterwards. I'm like, okay, well, pretty hefty now. Ooh. Let myself slip a little bit there. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being overweight. Well, unless there's health issues, but you just decide randomly that like I just want to lose this weight again, so I will. I was earlier 20s. I was pretty fit, and I put on weight in my mid 20s, and I started losing again in my later 20s. And I've always kind of been up and down with my weight, anyways. Has the diet and exercise regime been hard? I mean, it's not like I'm out there waking up at 3 a.m, working out for 6 hours, then going to work. That's definitely not what I'm doing at all. I just try and be a little more active in life. I recently moved in with my buddy. We live in an apartment building in Hamilton now. We live on the top floor, 21st floor, so I take the stairs to and from work every day. So I don't take the elevator unless I have some unbearable load that I just can't physically take up the stairs. So it's like 21 flights of stairs up and down. That helps. I do those every day. I try and do 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups every day, and that's like it. That's all I do. It helps. It helped quite a bit, but like more importantly, the biggest change was the diet, changing up how I ate, and maybe not eating ice cream and chocolate and cake every day, and not eating like 3 McFlurries if I go to McDonald's, and that all kind of helped to cut out too. I always had kind of a bad eating habit when it came to junk food, or just food in general. So like I typically just stick, my diet now is just meat and vegetables, pretty much it. I don't really eat carbs. I have like a very minimum amount of carbs. Just because I find that helps me a lot. It's an elimination diet, so low carb. And it's just easier to focus on. If I could tell myself I could eat whatever I want, just kind of control what I eat, I always fail. So this way I just tell myself I literally can't eat that, so therefore I won't eat that. And if I just don't eat that, naturally I'll lose weight. It helped me lose, I think I lost 70 pounds, I think, starting like a year and a half ago. I lost a lot of it like right away. I lost like 50 pounds like in like 3 months or something ridiculously wild. No, maybe it was like 6 months. And then I'm like, okay, I'm happy where I'm at now. I'm gonna go back to eating whatever I want. I'm like, oh, I put on like 10 pounds. Oh, I can't do that. Let's lose more weight. And then I just kind of get in this rotation of, okay, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm gonna kind of like maybe enjoy myself a little bit, need some of this stuff. Not that I'm like dying and craving it, but you know, whatever. I get some buddies over and like we want to play Twilight Imperium. Maybe they want to order pizza and wings. Maybe I want to actually eat the pizza. And I'm like, okay, I'll have some pizza. Maybe if we're ordering that, I might as well order McFlurries too. Maybe I'll have my 3 McFlurries. And then I'm like, after a month of doing that, well, maybe not a month, but it's not healthy. Let me tell you, it's not healthy. It's up and down. So I'll put on like 5 pounds. I realize I don't want to, let's just drop that. So I'll try and lose like 10, and then I'll put on 5 pounds, try and lose 10. That's typically how it goes. Anyway, sorry, I didn't want to dwell on that one. How are you finding taking more points for Tomb Kings? I notice you seem to forget to add. I do forget to add the Hero Titans bonus when casting spells, or like I had this habit of. Okay, let's put it this way. I cast a spell, and I'm supposed to add D3 to that spell for the Hero Titan being nearby. He's a monster that helps add casting. But I'll look at Steve and like, I'm not dispelling that. I'm like, then I won't even bother rolling the Hero Titan. Or there's been times where I have rolled the Hero Titan, he added 1, and it still didn't matter. And it's just, I'll be honest, every time I brought the Hero Titan, hasn't mattered. It's very important, I get it. And it's not that I forget, I just forget to show it on camera, or I forget to explain what I'm doing on camera. It's a lot of like, I'll roll the dice, and then Steve will, or Cullen, or whoever I'm playing, Josh will be like, I'm not going to dispel that, just go on the next. I rolled too high or whatever. So I'm like, I don't even bother rolling the Hero Titan. I know I should roll it right away, I just kind of forget to. And it's just discussed off camera, or like non-verbally off camera. Like he'll just shake his head like, I'm not going to stop that. So I was like, oh, you're not going to stop that? Nope. I don't need to roll the Hero Titan then. Sometimes I do forget though, so yeah. You want me to try a light wizard? I could. My list is 2 level 4s. One will be light, one will be Nehek. I can see I have to have a Nehek wizard, so I'll do like a level 4 light wizard as well. I think that could be a lot of fun. I plan on having a lot of fun with that one. With the 20% point increase, it's not as devastating. Try casting more cheaper spells each turn with less dice to maximize the bonus. That is true. Yeah, make it hard for Steve to dispel and try a light wizard sometime. I will. Are you looking forward to the, absolutely yes, this question. Are you looking forward to the Magic the Gathering 40K crossover? I am too. If they release 4 commander decks for MTG 40K, and that is apparently the plan, that's what I've heard too. Who do you think will play them on the MiniWarGaming 4-player stream? Oh, wow. I mean, that would be ideal. I would assume, I would personally like it to be like Horus Heresy Primarch commanders, but I know it's not going to be. If I had to guess, it's going to be Gilliman, Abaddon, Yvrain, and like Gazgul, maybe? Those would be the 4 commanders. So what this is a crossover. So they typically, and it's a commander crossover too. Commander is my favorite format for, it's that and Limited. Those are my 2 favorite formats for Magic the Gathering. I've been playing Magic the Gathering forever, and those are by far my favorite, or Cube. But Cube's like Limited, so like, what does it matter? It's like a player. It's like your own personal made Limited. Anyways, what was I going to say? Yes, I expect it to be those 4 commanders. The Eldar one I'm iffy on. I don't know. That could be Eldrad. I assume it's going to be Orcs, Eldar, and Chaos and Space Marines. Probably without a doubt. And they typically, I don't know what they're going to do in this case. I don't think they're going to give them new rules, but they're going to reskin old cards that would probably best represent those cards, if you guys know what I mean. Old cards with older, not like old, like 20 years old, but like recent-ish cool cards that like, this is probably what Gilliman would do, so let's reprint it. Gilliman, Primarch of the 13th Legion, or 13th chapter, I guess, whatever, Primarch of the Ultramarines. Here's his random mana cost, here's what he does, he has this effect, it's very similar to this card. That way it's not like, they don't have to design it too much, but if they gave them unique designs, that'd be kind of cool too. And I'm hopeful that the rest of the deck is relevant as well. Like they're gonna make that many cards for Warhammer 40K. That'd be outstanding. You better believe I would buy that deck. You better believe I would play Abaddon, like without a doubt. And if there was 4 of us doing it, it'd probably be Cullen, myself, and Aaron, and Steve or Josh. I'm not too sure who'd be more interested. I know they both like Magic or have played Magic. I don't know how much they actually like Magic though. I know me and Cullen are massive fans, and Aaron's also pretty big into Magic. Maybe not so much these days, but more so in the past for her. How is the D&D going? I kind of explained that a little bit earlier. Have you run or been in any cool new adventures recently? I am currently running Enemy Within. I've never run it before. I've never even read it before. I heard it's a very legendary module, though. One of the best company-written modules. You know, like a company will release their game, like, here's a module you can run with our game. I heard it's one of the best ones ever written in, like, all time. So I am very excited to play this. I read through the first 2 books, and I am already very, very intrigued. And my friends are having a blast. So I am... And I like the system a lot too. I love Warhammer Fantasy. It's very relatable, very Tolkien mixed with real world geography, and kind of politics too in a way, right? And I like it. I like it. How's the Nini going? And then, do you play MTG Arena at all? I used to play MTG Arena. I played it when War of the Spark was coming out because I really wanted to play War of the Spark, but none of my friends were going to pre-release, and I typically always go to the pre-releases. So I'm like, well, screw you guys. I'm gonna do my own pre-release. And I played War of the Spark on there, and then I started going to pre-releases again with my friends. And I'm like, okay, well, I prefer this. I always liked real Magic in real life more. I like collecting the cards. I go to the pre-releases only to get cool cards and trade for commander cards. That's all I do. I go for the experience of the pre-release. I think Limited is an amazing format. No one has any big constructed decks. No one's put a lot of money into it, and it's just it's luck and skill, which is why I love Warhammer. So it makes sense that I like Limited. Luck as in, it all depends on what you have in your packs. If it's a draft or if it's sealed. Sealed, you're given like, I think it's 6 packs, and you crack them all open and you make a deck out of those 6 packs, whatever you can make. And then drafting is like, you have 3 packs, but you open up the first pack. You would draft 1 card out of your deck, your pack, you pass along, then you take a card out of the next deck that's passed through, but you have 3 first picks, then hopefully, people pass you cards in your colors that you could use. I think those are great. Corner guy, Luka, greetings from beyond the warp. Nice. I started playing at the end of 8th edition with Necrons, and since being stuck inside, haven't gotten a game of 9th in yet. Oof, I'm sorry to hear that. You're missing out. 9th is a great edition. But, soon. I assume soon. Though my collection has consumed yet another small shelf. Good. Always keep them busy. I like to hear that. The new models this year have been fantastic, but I can say with some certainty that the Locust Heavy Destroyer model, brand new model by the way, is my favorite model so far, and I can see why. I don't think you've run any since 9th came out. Okay, I have, but it was the old Heavy Destroyer. The Locust wasn't out yet. And I wanted to try out a unit of 3 of them. I think it's like 210 points for 3 of them. But their weapon is just like, I love their weapon on paper. The Heavy Gauss Cannon, I think it's called. Or I may have just missed it. You may have missed it. It was, again, the old Heavy Destroyer, so it technically wasn't the new model, but you can use the old Heavy Destroyers. They just have the one gun, the single shotgun instead. Any reason why? Are they bad, not a fan of the unit, or don't have any? Well, I have them now. I think I have 4, so it's a weird number to have because they come in units of 1 to 3. You can also put them in destroyers. They're a little expensive, and Necrons inherently are already really expensive because you want to bring giant units of them. So like Necron Warriors, that's 260 points for 1 unit. Maybe you want 4 of them, so you're already looking over 1,000 points there. They do provide a good shooting base, but they're such easy targets to go for. They used to have... In 7th edition, destroyers used to have jetpacks. Because I think jump packs were the other one. Jetpacks. So they would shoot. They could move on top of a building or behind a building, shoot, and then instead of charging the assault phase, they were able to roll 2 dice, and then they were able to move that much in the assault phase. So they could pop out, shoot their guns, boom, go behind a building again. And they were super safe in doing that. They lost that ability in 8th edition. But in 8th edition, they were pretty tough at T5, 3-up save, give them cover for a 2-up save, and have a Chronomancer nearby for a 5-up invulnerable save. You could rely on them a little bit there. But now, with the way reanimation protocols work, not best for the 3-wound unit, and you can give them a 5-up invuln save, assuming you go first. They're just a little pricey for what they provide a crap ton of firepower, and they do hit like trucks. That is without a doubt. They're a little pricey though, I don't mind that, and I have run them, and I will run them again. I'm just so in love with the fact that Warriors and Scarabs are good again, and those have always been my favorite units for Necron. So it's kind of hard for me to want to take them out of the list to make room for other things. I've been meaning to do an all-destroyer build for fun, with minimum squads of Immortals as my troops, I guess, because I still want to run a battalion. I don't want to take a CP tax for bringing, I would need to bring an Outrider, a Vanguard, and a Spearhead. But that's too many points, so I would have to do a battalion, which is minimum squads of Immortals as troops, just to hold backline objectives and stuff like that. So expect me to bring them in the future. D. Mitchell, 34. Hi, Luka. I am starting a Sisters army and was revisiting some older battle reports featuring them trying to come up with ideas. Okay, then I came across a battle report where you mentioned that a Sister of Battle had a quote hard body, and it seemed so out of left field that I spit out my coffee from laughing so hard. I'm glad you appreciated that. I'm going through a phase. I can't remember what it is in reference to. Something to do with something saying hard. I thought it was so funny because it is so obscure. Not necessarily to do with the sisters, but something having a hard body was just like, it just sounds goofy, right? But it represents like very tough, hard to kill, hard body. Your bullets can't get through my rock hard abs or whatever, right? Can I ask where this came from? How this whole thing? I can't even remember where it came from, but I was referencing it a while. It was in reference to something, and that's it. Love your content. Love being a Vault member. Please keep it up. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the love. The support is kind of what gives me the motivation to keep going, right? Because it's only as fun as you guys make it seem. I can't remember. I lost my word. It's only as fun as you guys enjoy it. Essentially, is what I'm trying to say. All right, random czar. T-Czar, like a Russian czar maybe? Ogre recipe cooking show with Josh, where you get a custom large-scale mop pot. That's in reference to the last week's Sit and Talk. All right, Rune Rock Rolla. Hey, Luka, so I know you like your death armies, but, Google, it's going to screw me over here in a second. Nope, okay, there we go. But if money was not an issue, is there any other Age of Sigmar army that you would want to build and play? Well, Scryer Skaven is the first thing that comes to mind. Like a proper new models. I kind of want like new clan rats to come out though. I'm kind of tired of like the old Island of Blood ones and like the even older ones that we have. I would like new clan rats. Storm Vermin are fine, I guess, the way they look. I immediately gravitate towards Skaven. Like without question, it'd be Skaven, I think. It's the most fun. I've had the most fun playing Skaven. It's just, our collection of Skaven is kind of old. I keep on meaning to make a list of Skaven to get them out painted and commissioned, but I want a new clan rat to come out first before I really do that. But it'd be Skaven, without a doubt. Ayo, dearie! So, for Luka... Alright, so your Soulblight protest, sort of maybe, kind of worked, and we're getting new vampires for Age of Sigmar, and the new Warhammer quest is all about vampires and their servants. Okay, the protest was, I wasn't fed up with Age of Sigmar, but the couple builds I wanted to play were kind of getting old and I didn't want to exhaust them. And I only really wanted to play death armies, but people were kind of getting tired of playing against death armies, the people here. Because it's kind of the same idea. It's like, okay, I debuff you, I reanimate, I come back to life a lot, and it's just kind of, it can be kind of not toxic, but taxing to play against. So I decided, okay, well, I'm going to play something that doesn't do that at all, but it's still a death army. And I know they teased that Soulblight was potentially going to be an army coming out at some point. I'm like, where's my Soulblight army at? Where's my Soulblight army at? I'm just going to play Soulblight. I'm going to play actual Soulblight Allegiance, which isn't that great, from the Legion of Nagash, which is not that great anymore. It's still pretty good. You can still have some nasty builds, but I was playing that, and I'm like, okay, guys, this is all you get. You only get Soulblight until Games Workshop gives me Soulblight. And then, shortly afterwards, but it was kind of like one of those like Sixth Sense things. I kind of knew at some point they're going to be showing off something regarding Soulblight, and then they showed off the Soulblight Gravelords model, the guy with the orange hair and the bat in it, and they showed off like the new White King, and a lot of this is for like, you know, their other game they're coming out with, but you know, these are Soulblight Gravelords, so I kind of alludes to the Soulblight Gravelord army coming out for Age of Sigmar. So I'm very excited for that. Yes, I'm very happy with that. Anything you are particularly hoping for or looking forward to? I just want a single vampire model to be scary. I want to pay 400 points for an on-foot vampire, and I want that 400. I'm thinking something like Gotrek, some ridiculous rules like Gotrek. Not necessarily like exactly his, but like, yo, that guy is terrifying. I gotta watch out for that. That vampire should be like the best combatant, the best magic. You could like maybe like different. You could be like a magical one or like a non-magical one or a martially. You have your bloodlines. Your bloodlines would dictate what you're really good at. And I want that. I want bloodlines to be they have bloodlines right now, but I want them to expand on the bloodline rules for Soulblight. And I wouldn't mind if it was like just zombies and skeletons as your basic core, your battle line, but I wouldn't mind there being like human thralls as well. Humans that have sworn to serve Nagash and work under the vampires. They're literally just because you used to be able to do that for Warhammer Fantasy. You would have not necessarily vampiric thralls, but you would just have regular guys with crossbows, swords, and shields who would work with the vampires. And like they're fighting side by side by a regiment of skeletons. And like, whatever, this is my culture. This is my way of life. This is what I'm used to doing. Like I literally live with these guys, and it's a cool concept. I would absolutely love to see that again. Do you or any of the crew play 40K or AOS on Tabletop Simulator? I do play 40K on Tabletop Simulator. Would it be possible to play you guys sometime? As a person firmly south in the United States of America, kind of hard even with COVID to get up to you. Yeah, I get that. I get that 100%. I'm playing Crusade with my buddies who really wanted to do a Crusade when 9th edition came out, but the only way to do it would be online. And they kept asking me to play. And I play a lot here, so my free time at home typically goes towards my other hobbies. But they kept asking, and I decided, okay, I'll do it. I typically don't like to play while I'm not working. Like I will every now and then, very rarely. But I honestly just get a lot more enjoyment out of watching other people play. I like to see how other people play outside of like the work environment, because we have our own meta here where we all know how each other play. To watch someone else play is sometimes just wild, completely wild. So I kind of miss playing against guests, right? Metal Michael 0. I'm going to try and get through all these. I'm like pretty much at my hour now, but we'll go a little longer. Hello, Luka. All the Warhammer Fantasy content coming out is fantastic from you, Steve and Cullen. Steve Cullen and Josh. You're really trying to make those Tomb Kings work. Are you happy with your collection of Tomb Kings right now? Absolutely. What makes it a good collection if it is? If not, what would you like to add to it and why? Okay, well, right now, I put the call out for people to sell me their Tomb Kings. Not me, but the studio. And I got overwhelming responses. I think one day I got like 30 emails or something about like, hey, I got these old like guys I could dig up for you. And then one guy had a particularly large collection that he was willing to let go of. I think it was like a 7,000 point army, and we picked that one up. And that kind of really covered all the bases of what we needed. There's a few things that were unpainted, but those could have been painted up to fill the slots. And we're talking Warhammer Fantasy, so like when it comes to rare choices, you can only have 2 rare choices, especially I believe you can only have 3, and then battle lines, whatever. So right now, it's looking pretty solid because we have as many caskets as we could ever need, Hero Titans we could ever use, Necrolith Colossuses, we have 3 War Sphinx, we have 2 Necro Sphinxes. We pretty much have like 2 of all the rare choices, 2 or 3 of all the special choices, minus Necropolis Knights. I need more Necropolis Knights. We don't even have those unpainted, that's like the only thing we're missing. We have over 300 skeletons now. And that's not just this one collection, there's other collections we picked up as well. Tons of chariots. We have all the heroes we could ever need, all the lords we could ever need, all the core we could ever need. It is by far our biggest fantasy collection right now. If I could lay it all out on the table right now in front of me, it would encompass this entire table and some. It's wildly big. We have like 60 Tomb Guard now. It's crazy. It is perfect. I just want more Necropolis Knights, and I think literally have the entire possible collection of Tomb Kings you could ever want, unless you want to expand more than the restrictions on what you can bring in a game. All right, I think just Necropolis Knights is all I'd really want to add. Volcanoctum. Wow, I probably butchered that name. How do you guys decide what will be a studio army versus something you personally buy yourself? How much gaming stuff do you guys buy on an individual level in general? Like, how full of gray plastic is my house? Okay, well, that's fair. That is kind of a tough question because it is so randomly different. I know when the Nighthawk came out for Age of Sigmar, I absolutely wanted to buy that and had that. I was so in love with that idea when it first came out. I'm like, that is going to be my army. I'm going to buy it personally, paint it up by myself. But unfortunately, it was part of the starter set. So we immediately got a couple starter sets painted up. And so we already had a pretty good foundation for Nighthawk army. I'm like, I immediately want to play this army. So I'm just going to play the studio one. I'll get my own eventually. I had a cool idea for what I was going to do for my own. In fact, it was very similar. Someone named Season who did up. It was 100%. He did it first. His idea. It wasn't exactly that. I was kind of going to do like a weird red, like blood kind of Nighthaunt build with necromancers and stuff. They were like hemiomancers, and they weren't like necessarily ghosts, but they were like bloody apparitions. And he crushed it. He absolutely did that. He did a beautiful job too. Beautiful job. So I don't know if you can find that, but I think Games Workshop actually showcased his work because he did one of the, not I think called avatars, Eidolon, the Deepkin guys, the Eidolon of Mathalon, and then the other one too. He actually converted one of them to be a vampire lord, and like a blood cape and his cool vampiric sword, and it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful conversion. But then the studio got such an army so quick that I just kind of got stuck playing that, and I said, well, I could buy my own stuff, or I could just add to the studio stuff and just requisition models, and that's all I did. I kind of said, okay, well, to finish this Nighthawk collection off, we're going to wait till these new things come out, and they did. And we were like, okay, order all this stuff, get it all painted, and bam. Nighthawk collection is ostensibly, don't need anything more for it, so that kind of got ruined, not ruined for me, but Oh, I couldn't get my own Nighthawk collection. Horus Heresy is a good example where the studio's not really expanding on the collections anymore, but I was able to get my own Space Wolf collection. I still did that. So typically when it comes to Age of Sigmar and 40K, the studio adds models and gets them painted like on the spot right away. People who are their job literally is to build and paint models all the time do it. So it's their full-time job, so they immediately get the models, get them done by the end of the week, and then bam, our collection is like complete. So it's very hard to keep up with that, and it's very hard to say, well, I'm not going to play this army until I get my own stuff done up, so I'm just going to play the studio army. But like, why would I spend money on my own stuff unless I really want to do my own scheme, my own narrative? That was the idea of my Death Guard. So I did my own Death Guard for 40K. It was a gift for Christmas once. Someone had bought me a collection of Death Guard, and I built and painted all of that pretty quickly, and I kind of expanded on that a little bit. But then the studio collection was kind of old, and there was no real reason to expand it because we already had so much of the old stuff that could stand in as the new stuff. I'm like, well, I want the new models. But we eventually got a lot of the new models too. So now I kind of mix my stuff with the studio stuff. I need more Terminators for myself and more Plague Marines, but I got those. So I'll be building them and painting them up at some point. I still have to work on some of my Necrons. I do have a massive collection of gray Necrons and Death Guard right now. Absolutely, without a doubt, very behind on that stuff, to answer the other part of your question. Orky Benji, Luka, why Varia so incompetent? Man, I'm just bad at playing her, all right? I want her to lead from the front, but it turns out a 5-wound character with a 3-up save and a 4-up invuln save is incredibly hard to kill. Incredibly easy to kill, so it's hard to justify putting her at the front, but she wants to lead from the front too, so... Big Mikey, Luka, with how the Cursed City vampires and undead look in general, how excited are you for the prospects of the vampires for Age of Sigmar? Oh, I'm absolutely excited. It's like the one thing I'm waiting for more than anything right now, regarding all wargaming. Absolutely is the one thing that's like on the top of my list. I love the 30K Space Wolves. Heresy Train has no breaks. Absolutely. Oh, and then there's a question earlier about, or a statement about me trying to make the Tomb Kings work. The Tomb Kings are this weird enigma where I typically want to win all the time. I'm pretty competitive in that regard, and there's people out there that don't want to win. Most people out there want to win their games. When it comes to Tomb Kings, I could care less if I win. For some reason, I just love everything about their lore, the narrative, the way they play. I like the restrictions, the super heavy restrictions, and love their constructs, love the models. I love everything about them. Could care less if I win though. Someone left a comment, and I actually thought it was a very funny comment that I took an extra 20% points in the game, and I brought some of the worst models to kind of fill those 20% points out, because I felt bad I was playing with more points. So I brought these really bad things to kind of offset their Necros things, because they're very bad. But they're so freaking cool in like how they work and all this stuff. And you know what? It's still a pretty tight game because like Steve brought bad stuff too, so it was kind of fun. But man, yeah. I don't know how I got on that train of thought. Wolf Trap. Luka, good day, Undead Lord. Good day to you, Wolf Trap. It seems your protest based on Soulblight actually worked. Like, it didn't actually work, but it just kind of, I knew it was going to work out timeline-wise, so it was kind of funny to say that I was doing that. With Cursed City being a new box game, it reminds me of Silver Tower, Disciples of Zinch, being a glimpse of what the new models are going to turn into. Are you hoping that the villains in the Cursed City will be hero options for the new Soulblight? Sure, absolutely. I think so. As a Horus Heresy Spacewell question, why not try a heavy support squad of Long Fangs or a special weapon squad? Because I know you like the one... Oh, the Red War that only has one heavy support slot in 30K. And maybe try a few combat shields on the Grey Slayers for those times you get caught out in the open. I was thinking of getting more Grey Slayers with combat shields. But I had worked out an initial list at like 3,000... Because at the time when I built it, we were playing exclusively 3,000 point games and 3,500 point games with Primarch. So that's exactly what I built. It was a 3,000 point list, and I couldn't afford... I had 40 Grey Slayers, and if I had all of them with combat shields or some of them with combat shields, it would have gone over. So I couldn't do that in my build. I just had to scrap the combat shields, and it just didn't work out. So I have all those combat shields still, but they're just a cool little, like, oh man, I love them. They're like Nordic looking. I don't know. I think I'm getting a little more used to it, and I do need to add some Long Fang. Like the obvious choices like Volkai Culverins, or like I guess I could do. Last cans are really expensive. I don't think I would do that. I'd probably do support squads with melta guns, or I start running veterans with melta guns. Is my what I might start trying to do. We'll see. Pro Waffles. Yo, Luka. Do you think Age of Sigmar is getting a little ridiculous with the amount of shooting? Yes, absolutely it is. If so, should they make units that have better saves against shooting, or just tone it down somehow? Well, one of the best fixes they could do is make it so you can't shoot while you're in combat anymore. but then, things could just fall back. But then that's a pretty hefty price to fall back from combat. So, I mean, you can always wrap around. It had to go in the direction of 40k where you'd have to do some like wrapping and not want to kill stuff on your turn, but then kill stuff on your opponent's turn. There's options. One of the best ones is no falling back from combat anymore. Or sorry, no shooting in the combat. That's got to go. If you're stuck in combat with range attacks, you can't shoot your range attacks while you're engaged. Unless you're maybe a behemoth, that'd be okay. Like, obviously, it's hard to justify the ironclad or the boats for the Caradron Overlords not being able to shoot while they're stuck in combat. But that could like represent the guys like fighting on the deck, so you can't really shoot the guys that are on the deck. I don't know. That should go away. It was fine before when shooting was just so very minor and it didn't have a big impact on the game. Like, I remember back in the day, shooting the big shooting unit was the Stormcast Eternal Adjudicators, the guys with the bows. They all had one shot, hitting on a 3, wounding on a 3, rend 1, like 24-inch range. But the Prime had the shock bolt bow, so if he hit on a 2, and if he hit, it would be D6 hits, and everyone thought that was wild. So he brought like 3 of those, and he was like, "Whoa, what are you trying to do to me here, man? You trying to shoot me on the table?" It was real bad at shooting. Didn't really do anything. But that was the height of shooting, and now you have wild things like Illumineth Realm Lord, like 30-inch range shooting that ignores line of sight. You have Caradron Overlords that could fly high, and like no matter where you hide, they're just gonna pop up, boom, pop down. Unless the table's covered in terrain and they can't fly high, and then you're just taking away someone's rule, which feels bad. It is a little. I'll be honest. I'm a little burnt on Age of Sigmar right now when it comes to shooting. I do not want to fight shooting armies. I miss my game where it was like melee on melee. But it's easy for me to say when I have playing death armies are typically superior melee armies, just because of the capability of debuffing and bringing things back. Now it's not the end all be all. I've definitely lost to other armies, but I find a lot of comfort in like a big Brick of Mortec guard with a harvester nearby. Very hard to get through that in melee. So like the best counter to it is shooting. So I'm not going to complain that like. I'm not going to complain too much more that I want the one thing that's a big counter to my favorite army to get taken out of the game. I liked Age of Sigmar when it wasn't such a shooting game. When it was more meleeing, like the ebb and flow of combat on the table is well represented. I'm not too sure. I think the best change is like once you're stuck in combat, you can't shoot anymore. Then maybe like make falling back very penalizing and like very costly or like not doable at all. I'm just pretty much saying you'd have to change up the core concept of the game quite a bit, or you'd have to give everyone some weird de facto bonus save to shooting, which doesn't really make too much sense, or they'd have to nerf shooting across the board heavily. I think it'd be easier just to change the core rules of the game a little bit. If they want to keep these cool units that shoot all the time, just don't make them as effective. It just doesn't feel super good. Bagel Drone. Hi, Luka. I hope everything is going well. If you could change any rule in the core rules of 40k, what would it be? Oh, boy. What do I hate in 40k? I don't like falling back, but whatever. It is what it is. If that's the first thing that comes to mind, that's probably the only one I could greatly think of that I would want changed. Is there anything janky in the game I don't really like right now? I think it's like, honestly, not in a bad spot. I don't like the idea of falling back from combat. But combat typically, like these days, is pretty brutal. If you have a good close combat unit, you're gonna probably just kill whatever you've got in combat with. So I mean, it's not really that big of a deal either. So no, I'll be honest. I'm like, there are things from like, I wish there was like vehicle armor, vehicle facing. I miss those rules a lot, but the game is just so different now that it doesn't need it. Doesn't really need it at all. I'll be honest. I think it's actually. It is in a very good spot. Like, hate the idea of that or not, 9th edition is in a very good spot. Personally, that's just my one single person's opinion. So I don't know, it could be wrong. Kurt is the word. Sorry, Kurt is the word. Or it could be Curtis the word, but it's probably Kurt is the word. At Luka, did I miss the Death Guard Codex review? I believe so. I can't find it. Can you share your insight on the current state of the Death Guard, your favorite units, and some tips for starting Death Guard player? Keep being awesome. Okay, well, Mortarian's amazing. Your Terminators are amazing. Your Plague Marines are pretty good. Poxwalkers are great. Literally everything in the book is good. Yeah, can't go wrong. Cultists suck, but that's okay. They kind of just kept cultists in there to appease all those people who had a ton of cultists. I got to imagine they're not even objective secured. That is wild. But Plague Burst Crawlers are good. Flesh Mowers are good. I like everything, man. There's probably like, Chaos Spawner is super good. Like everything is. They did a great job with that book. The one thing these new 9th edition books, there's not too much like misinterpreted jank, if that makes any sense. I'm trying to think of like weird examples of older rules where it's just like, I mean, remember the Eldar Fire and Fade thing where it'd be like, okay, Dark Reapers disembark from a transport, you've rain Soul Burst and they shoot, and then they shoot in the shooting phase and they fire and fade back into a transport. Like that was like, ugh, that kind of feels bad, not great. Or like the old like Blood Angel Smash Captain lands on top of a building, units down here, more than 9 inches away, but when you move with fly, you ignore all terrain as if it's not there, so you pretty much take the terrain off the table, and then the model's right there, so he just has a 2-inch charge. So like that kind of stuff's gone too. Anyways, what I was trying to say is that the new codexes are, I want to say they are, that kind of stuff doesn't exist, but I could be wrong. It's just the Death Guard are just straight up durable, and they're reliable, and they're going to get to turn 5. They're probably going to win. If they get to turn 5, they probably won, right? They're going to win that attrition game, and I think it's just so well written in that regard. Now, I know people don't like to play against them. A lot of people think they're overpowered. It's just because they're durable and very hard to kill. So that kind of goes with you have to have a different train of thought when you're playing against Death Guard. A lot of people straight up just want to annihilate their opponent. People want to show up to a war and just eradicate the enemy. That is hard to do against Death Guard. They're literally designed not to die. So we have to keep that in mind when you're playing against them. Of course, like I've played a game against Steve where he had random crappy orc mechanized shooting, and he tabled me in 2 turns. I had like one of the more durable Death Guard builds I built at the time. But the dice are dice. But by design, they're meant to not die. So that can be very frustrating for a lot of people, and that's where a lot of this hate for the Death Guard is coming from. Like, I can't kill them. That's the same reason people don't like the Dark Angels, the Inner Circle. I can only win them on 4s. What's up with that? You have to have a different mindset when you play against that. Don't focus so much on killing. Maybe lure them and trap them and hit them with mortal wounds and like try and take them out. But it's more about control. You gotta remember they're slow. So you have to play against their weaknesses and use your own strength. So if you have a fast army, there you go. You do not want to get stuck in prolonged close combat with the Death Guard. They will win that pretty much every time. Against most armies too. Even though you're having like Khorne Berserkers and all that, you're charging in. It's just you might kill that one unit of Death Guard, but like I don't think you're gonna be able to trade up too well. It depends on the builds and everything, but they're just so well built to deal with that kind of stuff. Yeah. I kind of said what my favorite units were. It's just if you're gonna start off Death Guard, you can't go wrong with Blightlord Terminators. You want to keep them cheap with bolt guns and the flame and the flail. Lord of Virulence is good. Mortarian's an amazing pickup. The Demon Prince got buffed a little bit by getting rid of the Lord of the Death Guard rule, so you can have him and a Chaos Lord in your army now. Poxwalkers are great for certain builds. The Plague Marines are great for certain builds. You definitely want Plague Burst Crawlers. You definitely want Foul Blightspawn. Those are also great options. The Foul Blightspawn is like an auto-include in, I think, every list. He's so powerful. And the auras he provides you. Oh, actually, I only have a couple questions left. All right, Unpure. Do you think they would make the old world a different scale, maybe closer to the old 6 or 8 millimeter scale, and be true massive battle simulator? I think that would be 5 out of 7. That would be so freaking cool. I would be 100% behind that. I don't think that's what they're going to do, though. I think they're going to try and find some way for people to use Age of Sigmar models in the old world. Maybe not, though, because they want to sell models. So I'm very on like 2 different sides of the fence here. I don't know what they plan on doing. Would they do that? Absolutely possibility. Sure. Why not, right? I think that would be cool. I also want to see like Titanic is going that direction too, with like a little epic scale game. I think it'd be a lot of fun playing these ginormous battles. I would love for the old world to do that because I like the idea of all these like rank and these like little bricks of like here's like some Empire halberdiers, you can slam them together, get like a little bit bigger unit, and you got these giant monsters all over the place fighting. It'd be good fun. It'd be good fun. I don't know if they'll do it though. Is the problem. Zeuiel. Oh, butchered. Luka, I want to make a psychic Necron list focusing on the various models that do mortal wounds at the end of the movement phase, like the various Cryptex and the Catan. How would you go about doing something like that well in a Necron list? Well, if you want multiple Catan, so you need Destroyer Cryptex to do that, and you'll need a Transcendent Catan Shard, because you can bring, I'm pretty sure you can bring more than one of those. I haven't dabbled in that one for a bit. Then you're definitely going to, the named Catans are the Nightbringer, the Deceiver, the Void Dragon, but you can only bring Oh, I think you can only bring one Catan shard per detachment, not the Transcendent, not necessarily multiple Transcendents, but you can only have one of all the named ones. So you would typically want all 3 Catan shards in your list, 100%. That is going to be 900 plus 230, I think is what that would come to. So you're looking at 1130 in points there. You would want Cryptex for your HQs. If you really want to skew into this, you'd want Cryptex as your HQs. So you'd have a couple Cryptex here and there. You need 3 detachments. So you're going to cost yourself. It could be like it could be 3 patrols though. So it would cost you 4 command points to do it, and then you would need 3 troop choices. So we're at 1130, and then each Cryptech is are they 75 points each or 80 points each? We're going to do 3 Cryptechs. If you want more, you could do 6 Cryptechs. Oh, I think there might be no, you're probably interested on the rule of 3 there. So 3 destruction Cryptechs, and then you're looking at like a 1400 point list. Then you have to have 3 troops. So you could do like 3. I'm trying to think of mortal wounds. Technically, Immortals with Tesla can do mortal wounds. I just don't know if that's worth going into. What else can do mortal wounds? What else does mortal wounds, man? Does anything else do mortal wounds? Man, I feel like I'm having a hard time kind of imagining what my army does. Probably best bet is just going with like warriors with reapers at that point, just to fill out the rest of the points, because that's like 3 troops at 600 points. But you can do like 2 squads of reaper immortals at 500 or 460 points. No, 520 points. And then you have like a minimum squad of immortals for the 3rd one, so you probably have like 1 less warrior to get that last 5-man squad of immortals in. It's not a great list, but it'd be kind of cool. That's probably your best access to a ton of mortal wounds. Oh, you probably want to. Do you go up to a vault? Because if you want a lot of mortal wounds, you definitely want vaults. The Tesseract Vault. That thing pumps out mortal wounds like it's nobody business. But it's a lot more expensive, and you'd have to drop some of your warriors. Oh, you'd have to have a Lord of War slot, so you can't do. I guess that'd be your 3rd shard, though, Lord of War slot. So you could do like 2 patrols and a Tesseract Vault, I guess. Or you do like, I guess, yeah. Maybe that'd be it. I don't know. I'd have to have more time into this. I would definitely bring the Nightbringer, a Vault, and probably not the Deceiver, but the Void Dragon, because he's Biss model, so you definitely bring him over the Deceiver. The Deceiver's good, without a doubt. Nightbringer is the best, so you bring Nightbringer because he's the best. You bring the Void Dragon because he's Biss, or Biss looks, and then you bring a Tesseract Vault because Biss mortal wounds. Sorry, best in slot. It's just stupid term. Sorry. Yeah, you bring that. I think, you know what? I got a list brewing. I think I'm gonna play a list. I think I got a list up in my noodle here that I want to play. Thank you for the inspiration. That is it for this sit and talk, though. There's probably more questions on YouTube, but I've already exhausted my allotted time. My allotted time for this, and I've got a couple of other things I need to do for today, so I got to go venture off and do those. But don't forget, next week is Steve at MiniWarGaming.com. I also immediately have to go make a list, and we are going to. You'll be asking him questions. Again, he will typically only really answer them on MiniWarGaming.com under this video you're watching right now. So if you have a question for Steve, immediately go ask him. Go at Steve at the Mountain. Whatever goofiness you want to throw down there, he will respond to it, and he will try his best to answer that question. And that is kind of pretty much it. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hopefully this was some entertainment. I could do this all day. I really, really could. I just love sitting here and talking. I wish there was like a little more. We used to do it live, and there's a little more feedback, but I didn't get as many questions done because I'd be interacting with the audience a little much. So kind of went against the rambling even more. And here I am rambling again. And I'm just going to sign off there, let you get back to your day. Thanks for tuning in. Happy wargaming.